Right. Great, good. Could be a good time for some elevator music or something, Mike. You don't have any of that?
Oh, man. Next time.
I think Farrah should sing.
No. Is that Nancy?
How did you know that?
Nancy, come on. How long has it been?
I have a grating voice. What?
No, it's just very familiar.
Oh, man. Nancy, thank you for the save. But Farrah, I think we are at our mark, and I can give us the team spiel.
Okay, let's go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Annual Action Plan for the CDBG. This is the virtual public meeting, and my name is Mike Valiant, and I am simply the tech support, and I'm going to just run through some of the interface controls, how we conduct the meeting, and leave it off to Miss G and her team. For starters, getting into the meeting, when after you've been here and admitted, you'll probably notice that I muted you. You can feel free to turn your camera on to participate. However, we ask that you stay muted so that way that our presenters can get through their stuff. And if you had questions or wanted to take notes during the meeting, please feel free to use the Show Conversation button in the top right-hand corner where you'll see a couple of icons. And you can write in messages or even to some of us back here, whether you have a question about your IT help or, a question for Miss G or Miss Jessica or Miss Gabby on any of their materials. That said, if you are also on a phone, to unmute yourself, I believe you press star. And and lastly, I'd like to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded, and we will record it and have it available for you guys in the future. So without further ado, Miss G and your team, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So tonight's meeting, we are here to take any feedback anyone might have or any comments you may have on our action plan. That's been on display for a few weeks now. It'll be on display through April 22nd, and we'll accept all comments through the 23rd to be incorporated into the plan. My name is Farrah G. I am the contract administrator for our federal block grants programs, which includes Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and our Home Investment Partnership Grant. I am joined with Michael, who you met, and Gabrielle, who will be taking notes and who you would also send your comments to for the plan, and Jessica from our consultant, Mullen and Lonergan, who is going to walk us through this presentation. We will accept comments at the end, and there'll be further instructions on how you can submit your comments in writing if you don't speak up this evening. So let's get started. Jessica, you ready?
I am. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'm going to be going through a very brief PowerPoint presentation, which hopefully, if you are on the computer, you can see that now. If not, if you're on the phone, I'll make sure that I read through the majority of what's on those slides so that you can be a part of that as well.
If I could just cut in 1 second, we were able to post the slides in advance of the meeting, so they are available on the city's website. If you do TrentonNJ.org/CDBG, the slides are listed on our federal grants page this evening. Sorry.
Perfect. No, so we'll get started. I'm going to turn off my camera while we go through this, but I'm here. So this evening we are going to be talking about the 2021 Annual Action Plan for the City of Trenton. So the 2021 Annual Action Plan is what implements the goals and objectives that were outlined in the 5-year Consolidated Plan, which I'm sure many of you were a part of during 2020. And that 5-year Consolidated Plan is what guides the city with these funds for the next 5 years. The Consolidated Plan really focuses on CPD formula block grants. So that's Community Development Block Grant Funds, Home Investment Funds, and Emergency Solution Grant Funds. And the 2021 Annual Action Plan really just provides a summary of the actions and activities that the City of Trenton will be using in the next fiscal year to address the priority needs and goals that were outlined in the Consolidated Plan. So for 2021, the City of Trenton received $2,802,586.03 in Community Development Block Grant Funds. They received $890,749 in home funds and $252,442 in emergency solutions grant funds. So we're going to talk about the proposed funds, use of funds for 2021. So for the CDBG programs, the city is looking to spend about $510,000 in the administration of the grant. They will also be doing a voluntary grant repayment plan in the amount of $248,345. The city will also be doing some public services in the amount of $549,000, and we'll talk a little bit about those public services here in a minute. Funded $75,000, and a number of public facility improvements that will be taking place for a total budget of $2,393,000. So for the CDBG public services, the city's really going to be looking at providing the senior center some funding for operations, which would be about $172,000. The Cease Homeless Center, which is your coordinated entry, for about $75,000. And currently, the job training program for $50,000 and youth education and recreation programs $250,000. And the city is now accepting applications, so today through May 12th, for the youth programs and the employment programs. Again, contracts are going to be contingent on the federal and state mandates on gatherings. And so when you're thinking about the types of projects that you want to do, keep in mind some of those regulations that are still in place. And you can go to the city's website for more information. That would be, applications would be submitted via Zoom, the Zoom grant. And if you have more questions about that, you can reach out to Ms. G and she can give you some more information. So in 2021, the City of Trenton will be using their Home Investment Partnership Program for administration, which is about $87,000. The creation of new rental housing, and a amount for the CHODO set aside. And that's about 15% of the total grant, so $133,612. And lastly, the Emergency Solutions Grant would be funding administration for the programs at $18,500, for your HIMIS, your Homeless Management Information System, for $15,000, and shelter programs, a total of $110,000, which $30,000 would go to Homefront, $30,000 would go to Rescue Mission, and $50,000 would go to Anchor House. And the city will use ESG funding for homeless prevention as well for $108,942. So those are all of the proposed projects for the city, and you have kind of heard from Ms. G about what will be accepting comments and public comment about that. The plan in its entirety is on public display currently and will be through April 22nd. And any comments that you may have this evening, or if you'd like to put them in writing, we'll be taking those through April 23rd. We'll then be going in front of council for an adoption of the plan and final submission to HUD in May. And the program grant year begins July 1, 2021. So that is everything for the presentation. We'll open it up to public comments.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so it looks like we have a question from Miss Ann Schilling in the chat log. Do you see? And Miss Vaughn, Councilwoman Vaughn is raising her hand. So why don't we start with the Councilwoman, and then we can get to Miss Schilling. Councilwoman?
Yes. Very quickly, I just want to get some clarity around one of the information points at the beginning of the slide, where it stated that there were, in coming up with the plan, most of us on the call perhaps was involved. The first line, the 2021 annual plan implements the goals and objectives of the 5-year consolidated plan, 2020 and 2020 to 2024. And I guess the objectives and the goals were, I'm just curious as to which communities and how large were those forums that gathered those inputs and helped define the plan.
And Farrah,
that might that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the consolidated planning process was actually last year, 19 into 20. We had several meetings at the public library. I believe we were there for 4 days during the week. We also had various meetings with our stakeholders, and this all happened right before COVID. But we did hold those meetings. I'm actually trying to dig up the plan, which is on display on our website. And it does include a chart that lays out the meeting dates, the number of attendees, as well as all the sign-in sheets and all the information that we use to reach out to the public.
Okay, again, so stakeholders, they're not, I don't know who those stakeholders are, but stakeholders does not equal stakeholders do not equal residents, right? So, or the community, people who live in these neighborhoods. So that's, I mean, did we document the input that we received from the residents?
Absolutely. And again, inside the plan on our website, under the documents tab, there's a link to download the full consolidated plan, 2020 through 2024.
No, I'm not talking about the plan. I'm talking about the
no, it's
the
plan.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not asking about the plan. I'm asking about the surveyed information, the surveys that were sent out that gathered the inputs from the respective residents.
Absolutely.
I know you got the plan that has the end results, right? But I'm talking
it has
about
the actual survey.
Do you have the surveys out there?
Yep, the actual survey is in there. All of the raw data from the survey is in there. It's a part of our required submission to HUD document.
Okay. So
every email that we receive.
Okay, so instead of trying to talk over me, can I just finish my question? It happens every time. It's not productive. So I'm asking about, so you just had it in the library. So it wasn't, there were no meetings conducted in the neighborhoods? Like the East Ward, the South Ward, the North Ward, the West Ward?
Can I speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, there weren't actually. We did send an email on February 21st to the council, directed to Dwayne Harris for distribution to the council, as we do with every one of our meetings, offering anyone to take us up on our offer to hold a meeting within your neighborhood. We did not get a response. Again, this was during COVID, sort of right before COVID hit. I think everything wrapped up around March 4th, but no one responded. No one, well, actually, 2 people did offer, but by the time they were scheduled, the city was locked down due to COVID. Yeah.
Okay. So, again, so the community outreach, yes, COVID exists, but COVID does not preclude having community forums or meetings, ensuring that adequate level of input were included in the plan. It doesn't, to me, doesn't appear, and I will review the survey that you have out there, and it would be interesting to see which residents provided their input. And I would like to see going forward a more robust effort in community outreach and having meetings targeted in different neighborhoods and throughout the various communities of the city of Trenton. And suffice it to say, it's not good enough just to say, oh, I sent out a link and it was on the website. Outreach infers that we, as a city, as a government, as an administration, that we went out we did our community outreach. We reached out to the community. We went door to door. We went to their neighborhood. We went to the local centers. We didn't just say, oh, we're just going to have it in a library and we hope people show up when the library, closes at 5 o'clock. I don't know. Oh my God. So, and you have it during the day when everybody is at work, right, in the community. No, I don't think that's good enough. And I know a lot of residents will probably, agree. So, and then the other part is, my last question is around the allocation. I don't know what page is on, which slide, but there was a breakout of which stakeholders or nonprofit organizations that will be getting the greater portion of the home grant. You mentioned Homefront and 2 other entities.
For the home investment funds, we talked about administration, rental housing, and then CHODO set aside. Were those the programs that you were referring to?
No. There was another slide that showed that it was $30,000 going to Homefront. It was another...
for emergency solutions, yes.
Yeah.
So this is for emergency solutions grant, which is dedicated to helping people experiencing homelessness. And we went through a competitive application process where the different nonprofit agencies that serve homeless individuals in the community applied for funding based on the HUD has an allocation rule of a percentage of the total grant that's allowed to be spent on emergency shelter compared to other activities. And so the applicants that we received requests from were funded at the levels that are here on that slide: Homefront, Rescue Mission, and Anchor House.
Okay, so that's the total of the 110,000, right?
Correct.
30, right? So my question is, are those RFPs available on your website? The RFPs went out, right?
They did. They went through Zoom grants.
Okay.
And I believe it is on the website still.
So were these the only organizations that responded?
They were, and we also did, so for the HMIS administrative, that was also...
No, we're not talking about the HMIS.
I was just mentioning
the shelter
that
program.
these were all part of the RFP process.
Okay,
All
so
these.
so the selection process, Homefront, Rescue Mission, Anchor House, they were the only organizations that responded to the advertisement, right?
For emergency shelter. They were
Correct.
not the only ones that applied to the RFP because it was for the entirety of the ESG program. But for emergency shelter, yes, those three were the only ones that applied.
Okay, and thereby that's how they were selected by default, being the only one.
No, ma'am. There was still a ranking process and a scoring process. Each of the organizations had to discuss how they were going to meet HUD guidelines, how they were going to actually reduce and prevent homelessness in the city. So there was still a ranking and priority setting for these. So not everyone necessarily got it just because they applied. It happened to work out that way. These agencies have received funds in the past, and so they're familiar with the process and are able to perform the duties that are needed.
Okay. So I would like to see those, but I'll request them, in a different form. But I would like to see those RFPs. Are they out there on the website available for the public?
They are not.
Okay. Should they not be?
We don't normally advertise them, but we do advertise once we make a decision and once the process moves forward. We do publish what the scoring was and what the rankings were for the public to see, but we don't necessarily share the individual applications.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you. But from a legislative perspective, I would like to see those applications, and I would like to see the advertisement and the number of other organizations that applied. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
comments.
Yep, appreciate it.
I know there's several more comments in here, but it's kind of hard to keep up with all of these. I think you had Ann.
I apologize. So that was great. So now I have Miss Ann Schilling. She has a question, followed by Miss Chachi. Then there's RD, I don't know how to say it, but it's at pettykids.org. And then there's a Santiago, that Mr. and Miss Santiago has their hand up. So that's the order that we currently have. So,
Okay. So I guess Miss Ann Schilling, do you want to go ahead and ask your question or give your comment? You may be on mute because
She said
yes,
never mind.
Oh,
yes.
she said never mind. Okay.
Yes.
So then we have Miss Chachi G. Anybody?
Miss Chachi, you might need to unmute yourself. Well, I tell you what, Jess. Until they unmute themselves, I'll give you a heads up when they do. The number four, I believe, was let's see, r-el at paykids.org. They said, I believe you have a round of funding applications that were due in February. What is the status of these funding applications, and how do they impact the public service dollars and amounts you just provided?
Perfect. So we did have some applications that were due in February. Some of the funding that we have here is part of that. But for the youth services with the CDBG program and the employment program, we did in that meeting, our first public meeting where we discussed the February applications, state that there would be an additional RFP for those. So the amount that's set aside for the youth education and recreation and the job training, those were set aside, and we will be taking RFPs April 7th through May. Otherwise, we were able to allocate the rest of the funds through that February process.
If I could just add, the CARES Act funding is going to be handled separately outside of FY 2021. It's a different pot of money that requires a substantial amendment to our 2019 action plan. So we're just separating the pots of money and going through each of the pots one at a time. So decisions on that funding will come out shortly after we progress with this one a little bit further.
Hopefully that answered your question there. The next person that had their hands up was Santiago. Would you like to go ahead and?
Yes, this is Councilman Rodriguez. I have a question about, well, first, rental housing, $480,000 of rental housing, what that means. Who's going to get that money? What is it for? Rental assistance, or what is it? Then with the second slide.
For rental housing. Mm-hmm.
Rental housing.
So that's going to be for the creation of rental units. And I believe, Farah, this was through a competitive home application process.
We were accepting applications when we accepted applications for the annual action plan. We did not get any responses for our home program, but the home program application is usually a rolling application. So someone can submit an application or a proposal to the city in a month, and then we can consider it. So these programs are to be determined. The total set aside is.
What does it mean? Rental housing. What does it mean?
It'll be a rental house.
So for the Home Investment Partnership Program, the federal regulations require that this is the creation of new housing, essentially. And so what Ms. G is mentioning is that as developers in your community for low to moderate income households, as those developers come up with projects, they can apply for this funding.
I know who's going to get it. Then the job training program, $50,000 for job training. How many residents are going to be benefiting out of that? $50,000. And also a compound question. The first-time home buyer program, $75,000. How many residents are going to benefit out of that? $75,000. The city used to give $25,000 years ago per person.
Yeah, so I'll address your first one. The job training program, right now, that's another one that we have an RFP out for. So the number of beneficiaries will depend on the organization and what activity they decide to do. But you know, the amount of money that you receive from the federal government never meets the needs that you have in your community. And I can understand your sentiments about some of these lower amounts. And then for the first-time home buyer at $75,000, I think we thought we would help with about $5,000. I'm sorry?
Seven. Because you need at least for the down payment, you need at least $10,000 to $12,000 for closing on the house. So yeah, how many people? But my question: how do you come up with these numbers? Was this came from the feds, or somebody decided? Who decided how much is going to go to each one of these services? Who decided that?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jessica.
The first administration there is $510,000 for administration, but for every cent that you put up there, it's less than $510,000.
So for some of these,
more money invested in administration than what we are investing in our residents. That's my concern.
So some of these are limitations from HUD. So you have, a cap on how much you can spend on certain projects. And so admin is one of those. This is, the city always asks for the total amount that they can receive for admin. The administrative burden that is to run these programs is very high. It takes a lot of staff time. It takes a lot of regulations. There's a lot of reporting. And so they do take that based on the allocation that HUD allows. The other projects were kind of a combination of either applicants applying for funds, and so they said how much they need, and how many people they would benefit, and that's how the allocations were made. And then others were based on the need and the priorities that came out from some of our stakeholder workshops and based on what's happening with other departments that Ms. G works with. So it's a combination of ways that these numbers and the beneficiaries are developed.
As a councilman, to me, job training and first-time home buyer program are priority. Not administration, not what stakeholders. Who are those stakeholders? I believe they are the same people that IRS and people that work for these nonprofits. They are usually the ones that are involved in these surveys. Because I've been part of them. I used to be part of that group. I know who the stakeholders in Trenton are. Most of them, yes, I know who they are. The same people over and over. They are in everything. But to me, I am very concerned about this, spending $50,000 in job training and $75,000 for first-time home buyers when we have such a great need of home ownership. Not merely renters. We need home ownership in Trenton. That is a priority to me. I don't know if whoever is making up these things, they don't prioritize what the problems we have in Trenton. But to me, job training is very needed, and first-time home buyer program. That you have the most of this money should have gone for those two programs.
Thank you for that feedback.
I'm finished.
If I could just add, the first-time home buyer program, this is a replenishment of a first-time home buyer program that we currently have. We average about $9,000 per home. That's our average. We've been implementing the project.
I have people that have tried, that have called, and they say that there's no funds. How comes when they are available, nobody advertised those first-time home buyer programs? I tell you, people will jump at that. I tell you, they will not last a day, because we have such a lot of people that want to buy houses, but they don't have the down payment. They cannot afford it. It's a lot of money. So
we have a very
I remember years ago, those programs were available to everybody. They were available. They were announced. They were, But now, lately, in the last 4 or 5 years, that's it. They are hiding from the residents. I'm very concerned about that. I don't think you're going to you're not going to change this, but I have to vote for this, and I will be voting no if I see the same numbers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Did we have anyone else that had comments or hands up or?
I just think that it's important for the councilmen to know that this is a replenishment of funds. We also have other funding from other years. When we look at this 2021 budget, this is just for the $2.8 million that HUD is allocating to us. We've been implementing the first-time home buyer program for the past 4 years. Yes, we can go up to $25,000 if they need it. Our funding is only used to plug a hole. So like if they need help with closing costs, or if they need it, we can match their down payment up to half the amount. We can handle all of their closing costs. But we have a steady stream of people that come through our program. Some people drop out, some people just inquire for information, but we're constantly meeting with people and accepting and evaluating their applications for this program. This is a great program. With the remainder of the balance that we have from 2016, we're probably going to have $150,000 in there total. It's such a good program that I'm trying to add additional funding for it. But we only have about $9,000.
You don't convince me with what you're saying. I am going to vote no in this whole thing because it does not convince me. I don't see where I have people that tell me, oh, I went to City Hall. I called City Hall, but they told me that they don't have money this year. That's what our people have been told by your office, young lady. Oops.
I'm sorry that they received that information, but
I get emails from everything that happened in the city. I have not received an email telling me, we have funds for first-time home buyers. Let the people know, let your constituents know that we have funds for that. Usually that's what's supposed to be done. That's the way we are supposed to be to know what programs are available, how much money there is there for everything. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I think Ms. Vaughn had her hand up.
Yeah, if there's anybody else that's out there before me, I could wait. I want somebody else to go who didn't have an opportunity.
Doesn't seem like we have any other, or Sherry, I think.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, I'm a resident of Trenton. I had the same sentiments as the councilmen and councilwoman. I agree that, and I do have concerns, as they do, that the areas that you're funding that will go directly to the community is not enough money being allocated. I think those funds, as Councilman Rodriguez stated, I think they need to be, some changes, some adjustments. And I do agree, $500,000 for the administration to manage the CDBG funds is ridiculous. We have issues with the administration managing monies for just to run the city, to operate the city. So I really don't see that those funds really benefiting directly to the population in Trenton, for reason that these monies are being allocated. These funds are being allocated. Public funds are being allocated. I agree. I think that those numbers need to be looked at and plugged in other areas where we can see the benefit going directly to the residents. Because these categories are being funded, it looks like it's just to really benefit organizations who don't live in the city, and a lot of those areas of funding for the nonprofit organizations, they're going to eat $30,000 up. I don't see $30 being directly allocated directly to people in the city, because they have administrative costs. They have payroll costs. So I'm not really sure how that money is going to really show there's some benefits to the people here in Trenton as well. Again, these funds seems like they're more to help out the operating of the local municipalities and the nonprofit organizations, far as their being able to operate for whatever services that they provide on an ongoing basis. It's just those numbers need to be reevaluated, and I agree with them, because if the council body approves this funding, I think it's going to be some backlash, because and also if you say that there's monies, other funds, when you present this budget, present these funding areas in these categories, you should show what's already there in surplus, or already there reserved, in addition, besides the funding that's for 2021 through CDBG. So it really helps to see actually how much money are going to be allocated outside of what's being addressed today in regards to the 21 CDBG funding. So I think it needs to be a little bit more transparent, because I recall being on this call not too long ago. Councilwoman Vaughn notified a lot of the constituents about this, and it sounds like, and those were the same concerns, and it sounds like you're still trying to push the same objectives and short-term goals to allocate this money or get this money approved to these various organizations, and it's the same argument, and it just seems like you're coming back with the same dialogue, and nothing has changed. It's like, this is what the federal government requires. Yeah, there are requirements, yes, but you're saying that based on your information, data that you receive from, I guess, whatever stakeholders or residents from your public meetings, this is the information you came up with or received, so this is how we decided where this money should go. And it sounds like those meetings or information that was collected, these people in Trenton are saying, is what I'm hearing is they're saying, well, we don't need this funding, we're okay, we don't need this assistance, where I don't believe that that's what you heard. So again, I'm not trying to sound difficult, but I really do think that these numbers need to be, looked at and moved. And to me, $500,000 to the administration based on the budget that they stated to operate, that's like half of what they're asking that's been approved for this adopted budget for 2021. So something sounds amiss. So I would suggest that you go back and revisit those numbers, or sit down with the council, because they speak directly with the population in their different wards or within the city, and ask them. I think, it's inappropriate to present this without really getting their feedback, and saying, well, based on these public meetings that we had, it may not have been well attended, but if we didn't get enough feedback, but can you kind of give us some input, in regards to the needs, that where this funding can go directly to the community? Because based on what you're showing us in the different categories, it looks like the administration really is not overseeing anything. It's the nonprofit organization. So why are they getting $500,000 to administer funds when all they're doing is saying this is where these funds will be going, and that's it. They don't provide oversight. So it doesn't justify the amount of money you're for the different categories. You're underfunding or you're overfunding areas that don't need, that you can't justify the need. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I just, I know that this is, Ms. Vaughn, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I do. Again, I just I concur with my colleague on council, Councilman Rodriguez, and his comments, and they're very specific, right? And I do concur with our resident, Sherry Garrett, and that your presentation needs to be a little bit more granular, and it's not transparent, because based on what Sati Rodriguez pointed out, that, okay, you have a first-time homebuyer program. It doesn't tell us, the community, it should tell us who is responsible for allocating that money, taking in the applications. I mean, are you giving the $50,000 directly to residents that come to City Hall and fill out the application? Or are you giving that $50,000 to, say, Isles or Homefront or whomever, and they decide and they accept the applications and divvy it out? How is it being administered, the first-time homebuyer program? Is it being directly administered by the city, or is it a conduit via a nonprofit organization? Can somebody answer that question?
We administer the first-time homebuyer program right through our office.
Okay, so very good. So now that that's clear, that means Robin Vaughn can come in, citizen, resident of Trenton, can come in and fill out the application directly on the third floor, I believe, and then you would get back to them in a certain period of time with their approval, if they qualify. And so that would mean that you could share a list, and we should have some testimonials from residents that say that I was a recipient of the 2020 home buyer program in the city of Trenton. So do we have a list of recipients who have received the grant? And how many were they? Because I would love to hear their testimonials as to how successful the program was.
Absolutely. So that's something we definitely have a list of people who went through the program, the exact dollar.
So can you tell us right here, Ms. G, the number who have received?
21.
How many?
21. We've spent $227,520.
Okay.
And final assistance for our first-time home buyer program.
And the reason why I say that, and that should be included in your report, so the community can be assured that people are getting the funding and they're satisfied with the service and the process. And most importantly, it speaks to your success and the achievement, right? So even if there are programs that we do have
hijacking the meeting.
Could somebody stop, put themselves on mute? I believe it's the Jarrett person. He keeps talking and I can hear him. So I believe that the report has to show that. We as a city, as the Department of Economic Development, we need to show, like other municipalities do, show the success, the achievement, the outcomes, that we are getting real outcomes here in the city of Trenton by our first-time home buyer program, via the shelter program. And here are the outcomes, and here are the testimonials, and here are the citizens and residents that were assisted, right? And we don't see that. And we need to see it, because if we don't see it, then you're going to continue to have these conversations with us. And if you are doing these things, these good deeds, and people are benefiting, then that should be publicized and advertised. There's no secret, right?
I agree.
So let's see that. So before we get this to council, please share that information, publicize it, get some testimonials out here of people who benefited from the program. And outside of that, if there aren't any, if for any reason, but you still should have a slide here that gives us a summary of your successes and achievements, right? How many folks were giving the grant for assisting in buying their home first time? And how much that, and how many, the number of individuals, and how much it was. Rather, the grant has been depleted, and how much money is left over. So none of that information is provided here. And it's about time we provide that, because other municipalities, they do it. Okay, so we're going to look forward to seeing that, Ms. G. And I just have a question. Is Jessica Louise a city employee?
It's Jessica Lurs. No, ma'am, I'm a consultant.
You're pardon me?
I'm a consultant with Mullen and Lonergan. We're contracted with the city of Trenton to help with your with these three programs. Sorry.
Okay, and you're located in where?
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. So I figured as much, because when you said, "Oh, we're trying to help your community," I was like, "Well, our community." You spoke and you didn't speak in the first person. So, anyways, well, that's something that's concerning. I can't imagine us using an out-of-state entity, and this is no diss to you, Ms. Lars.
Certainly understand.
I am very disappointed, being a representative of my city, the city of Trenton, that we're farming out a contract to fund public funding that was allocated to Trenton, and we're spending it outside on an entity in another state to administer our CDBG grant public funds to our citizens. That makes no sense. Oh, I have major concerns about that. So, I yield my time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I could just add one thing. The first-time home buyer program, No. Let me just back up one step. I do agree with you, Councilwoman Vaughn, that we do need to do a better job at advertising our accomplishments. And that is the things that I work on late at night when everyone else is resting in my house, to try to figure out a way to make this information available. However, any successes that we do have are included on the website. There's an entire page devoted to the first-time home buyer that very specifically lists the amount of people we've served and the amount of money that we've spent to date. I do want to, we did reach out to the first-time home buyers to see if perhaps they could take a picture in front of their house, but that's not something that we could require of them. Actually, HUD won't even allow us to use their real name in our files because their information is private. So I don't want to sort of call them out on something that they're not required to do. But if they're willing to give us a testimony, I surely will post it to our website. But we are working harder to sort of figure out a way to share information more publicly. But any of our accomplishments are listed in the various documents that we publish each year. Our CAPER report that we put out at the end of each year lists all of our accomplishments. I do agree it needs to be presented in a way that the public can digest it better, and that I'm working with Paul down for the website to try to get some stuff out there for me with some various grants so people can look at the snapshots and see. But these are all requirements from HUD. We have to share with the public what our accomplishments were, and we have. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the 2021 Annual Action Plan. This plan, when we go in to insert this plan into HUD's IDIS reporting system, this isn't something that we draft in Word. This is where they have a question, we put in the answer, and then a document is formulated. It's very specific about what they want to know. And the only thing they want to know and talk about is what our future plans are. We're not required, and there's no space or opportunity within that plan to discuss what we've done in the past. That information is captured in our CAPER reports.
Okay, so
the reason why that's not in it is because it's not a part of the requirement of this plan.
Yeah, but in any plan, just by the inference of a plan, right? When you talk about a plan, it is inferred that, performance metrics will be included. You cannot do a plan if you don't understand your history, right? So to not include your history of your successes and failures historically, how can you properly plan for the short, medium, and long term? So you have to include historical performance and outcomes in your plan. And I think HUD assumes that we know that. So you can't do a plan if you don't really know what your historical performance and your past performance was or is, right? So I think we need to start including those metrics so we can see a trend and when we can report effectively to the outcomes, right? We're talking about outcomes, right? So we want to know that the CDBG grant money is successful in the city of Trenton, that it's is having impact to our economic development, right? It's having impact to, as Santiago Rodriguez mentioned, the first-time homebuyer program. It speaks directly to economic development, right? You want people to buy houses in Trenton. You want people to come to the tax rolls, and that's through home ownership. So you should be able to report on your plan that the CDBG grant funding is very instrumental in the city of Trenton and economic development, that it has increased home ownership in Trenton, 50% or 30%. I don't know, but we need to know that. And HUD needs to know that because we may need more or we may need less. So, and we may need to make adjustments to the program. But if we're not tracking our successes and our outcomes and the impact to economic development this funding is having, then our program, is not effective and it's not being administered properly. So we really have to move forward and really start tracking this metric and really understanding the impact of these programs, and that we want to communicate back to our federal government that these programs are impactful and they're effective, and here's why, and here are the numbers and the outcomes to prove it. And that's evidence. So that's what I'm saying. And we're not the evidentiary analysis is not here in your plan. But, I'm here for the next 2 years to help you with that. And I'm happy to do it for my constituents here in the West Ward and the residual benefits to the other ward and working with my colleagues on council. So, and I hope that you take my recommendations into consideration, because I want to start seeing some outcomes and how effective these programs are in our city. And I definitely want to see a group. I don't want to see our grant money going out to Pennsylvania. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Vaughn. And just to reiterate what Ms. G said, and it sounds like there needs to be more transparency with the public, but just to rest assured that you all are providing all of this information about updates and outcomes to HUD. And so HUD is aware of the great work that you are doing. But we get your sentiment and what you're saying about needing to do that in a different forum, not just in the way that we put canned reports to HUD. So I appreciate your comment. And if there was anybody else on the
Mary Horn. Mary Horn.
Go right
Hello?
ahead. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought just two questions. One is, may I please have the turnaround time for the CDBG emergency fund for the homeowners? The turnaround time, let's just say I was allowed to put in an application for the funding for the $5,000. And I was told that Ms. Faragee would be getting back. So, and also, there were others that tried to get through, and they said they were unable to. How can they make this happen for them also? Adding that all together, just like to know what the turnaround time would be for that when someone will be getting back, and how can others that have been trying to get through to apply to fill out an application for the CDBG $5,000 grant for emergency funding for homeowners. Number two was Mike Valari. I didn't know. I heard you mention you were technical support, but you and I had a dialogue several months ago, and I was hoping to hear from you in reference to an issue, and you're probably familiar. My name is Mary Horn, and we spoke. So is that not a conversation that's going to be had? And if not, that's fine too. But would like to speak to you again. I know we were supposed to have a conversation, but I did not hear from you again. So you can reach out to me.
How are you, by the way? It has been a minute.
God is good. I just want the funding. I get something done here, and just to know I'm good. So if that's something you would like to do, you have my number. You can reach out to me anytime.
Mary, let me tell you something. Before we leave, before you go, I want to make sure I have your number. I don't want to put listen, I love everybody here, but I don't want to give you all my cell phone number just yet. But, Mary, why don't you,
I have yours. So I have yours, but you can give it to me. Well, I'll stay on the call, and okay. You can give it to me again. Maybe it changed. I don't know, because I've been blowing your phone up.
Just give me, you know what, if you give me a call, Mary, I can address your issues right now and address any questions that you have right now. If you give me a call on the side, okay?
Well, my number's here. I'm going to try that number again, okay? And then we'll do that. But I'd like to get an answer from Ms. Faragee to the first question, please. Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mike.
You got it, ma'am.
So I'd be happy to answer that question, Ms. Horn. I can give you a call after this public meeting for our FY 2021 annual action plan. I was on vacation and then quarantining for a while after that. We've returned over 300 phone calls. We're checking our voicemail box every hour on the hour, returning calls, dropping off applications, sitting with our senior citizens, filling out applications, collecting pertinent information to complete the applications. We have moved on the emergency situations. I do owe you a phone call and with a decision. I do know that today is my first day back in the office, and I promise you I will give you a call tomorrow.
Now, and just to piggyback on that, is there more? I don't know how many applicants have applied, but I know there's others that would like to. How can they get through to do this? I've been, I know there's a number there, but they haven't been able to get through.
Well, we're not working in the office every day. We have our phones are, we did get recently cell phones so that we're able to contact people even on the days that we're home. So we're not calling them from our private home number. We are making phone calls. We've probably just distributed over 1,000 applications today. Unfortunately, they aren't coming in as quickly as we'd like them to. As you are aware, that application requires a lot of information for CDBG purposes. But there has been an uptick in the submission of these applications. We just ask that, if people to call the hotline, and we call them back immediately. We are documenting when the calls come in and when they're actually returned, to make sure that we're responding to people as quickly as we can. But I don't believe that we have any calls that are remaining that are outstanding unless they came in within the last hour or two.
And
Well,
I
if
can
you can give
confirm
me
there are no calls waiting. I have been actively calling all of our applicants back, just to let you know.
Well, if you can give me that number too, because I'm sure I was with someone when they tried, and we were back and forth. So I don't know what the disconnect was.
It's a hotline, so they just leave their name and their phone number, and we'll call them right back. We're checking the voicemail every hour on the hour. We got 3 people checking those messages. Gabby is out delivering applications. I believe she even came to your house with our senior cost estimator to look at your property. So we're doing our best with our limited staff to meet the needs of the community, but the community is not turning in the applications. I'm sorry?
Could you give me that number now? We have some other people on the call. They probably just they're listening in, but do we have that number again, just so we can be clear while everybody's on the call? Excuse me?
I was asking Gabrielle if she had the hotline number offhand.
Yes, I do. It is 609-815-2519.
815-2519.
Correct.
Gabby, can you say that again? I'm going to put it in the chat log.
Yes, of course. 609-815-2519.
Appreciate that. And so I'll be looking forward to the phone call with your decision with that. I'm hoping it's in my favor. I don't see why it should not be, but because they're going to set too good with me. But the bottom line is that thank you for that. And we have the number, and the people have it who have written it down. And I'm going to go off the call now. Thank you, and I appreciate you letting me speak here.
Thank you. And
I'll be waiting for a call, Miss G, please. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
And Michael did put that hotline number in the chat feature, so if anyone did not catch it, you can grab it there. So is there anyone else that has any additional comments or would like to talk about the 2021 annual action plan?
I just have to tell Ms. Horn that Councilwoman Vaughn confirmed your number for me, so you will be hearing from me as well. So, but yeah, anybody else have comments?
Yes, this is Sherry Garrett again. Just to piggyback on what Farah G and Jessica was stating in regards to HUD, the matrix and the limited information that goes into the application. If, going forward, if, you know, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that information really, the report that I think that the council, Woman Vaughn and Councilman Rodriguez was addressing should be a separate report if there's not enough amount of space to insert that. But I do agree from working with HUD, they do want to see matrix of how the money and the results, the benefits of that money being allocated for the various areas and categories. So I am very surprised, but there needs to be, if that's an issue, but there needs to be, if that's not enough room to submit that to HUD, but it needs to be submitted or advertised to the Trenton community or to the council, or that information needs to be provided in that report when it comes before council, so we all can see how the money has been beneficial to persons in the community. Far as we all concerned, that we don't see the benefit. Not saying that people have not benefited, but you know, there has to be, just as you're presenting this action plan, and trying to get, you know, approval to by the city to have these funds. There's got to be another report besides the one that's being submitted to HUD. So you are actually marketing this to city residents for their benefit. So that report should be more transparent and informal, so we all can see what's been happening. Because, you know, sometimes things are happening that's good for the city, but we all don't know about it. So when you bring these plans to us, the constituents, we're saying, And again, with the numbers, you know, you got to show, you know, the people who are in the various categories, how this money was spent, the end result. Far as pictures, I know that you could, most people, there's an application, a waiver that they can sign off. It's just like when you go to the doctor to say that, you know, do you approve of us reporting or utilizing you publicly in regards to the benefits that you have received. There's ways to address those issues. So when I hear that, you know, these are certain things you can't do, you can do, there are contracts, that there are agreements that people may want to say, yeah, I want to show that, you know, we are doing something. There are corporations or nonprofits or this local government that are making a difference with these public funds. So there are ways to advertise without creating a liability to the city or to the federal government. So, you know, there are ways to go about, you know, being able to share information. You just got to make sure it's legal and the recipients agree to it. So that's really it. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. That's helpful to hear that someone else understands the HUD matrix as well. So,
can I make a comment to Miss Garrett, if you don't mind, Jess?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I've been thinking about what you've been saying. My previous career track was in data, and now I'm here at the city of Trenton, and so I'm just thinking of how this report would work, just so that when I go back to talk to Farrah tomorrow about it, after I talk to Ms. Horn, you know, what's some idea, like if we can, in lack of better terms, you know, throw a bunch of ideas at the wall, see what sticks. And I'm just thinking, you know, if this is something, like you said, something that's simple and doesn't expand the liability and frankly expand responsibility, you know, if it's something as simple as like surveys that we keep at the city hall or something. So again, my brain's already turning on the hows, and it's just a matter of, tagging in with the team and seeing how that could work. So I do really appreciate your input and how it's urgent. I'm again, but like, just so you know, with surveys or testimonials or anything like that, that's a data collection. And so, and data collection's got to be accurate. It's got to be reliable. It's got to be valid through different type, you got to be able to run the same survey and get the same results with the same data. So, but my wheels are already turning on it, and seriously, your concerns are definitely being taken. So just wanted to let you know.
Perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If there are any other comments, we want to make sure anyone that we haven't heard from yet, we would love to hear from you. You can also submit comments in writing if talking in public isn't comfortable for you, and so you could do that. And again, you can review the full 2021 annual action plan in its templated glory on the city's website, and feel free to submit comments on that as well, especially if you have very specific comments about projects. We're happy to get that information, and you can send those comments to Gabby. She just added her email in the chat feature there. So if anyone has anything else they would like to do. Otherwise, can take any last comments, or we can close out the meeting. So anyone have anything they want to say for the good of the order? Okay. Well, I really appreciate everyone taking their time. It's great to see a lot of people invested in public comments. I'd say before the pandemic, we did not often see as many people show up to public meetings because they were in person. And some of the virtual space has allowed more access for people. And so it's nice to see a larger number of people participating. So again, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to Farah if you've got any final last words, or Michael. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all again. And
I don't have.
Okay. All right. Thank you all, and take care.
Bye. Have a great night, everybody.